started. I want to welcome everybody to the third panel discussion for the 2025 Women's History Month Industry Panel with RVWA. So far this month, we've chatted with some suppliers, we've chatted with some OEMs, and today we're really excited to talk about the outdoor hospitality sector with three lovely women here to answer some questions about their career, some insight and inspiration for others in the industry. We have Lori, Dee, and Carrie here today. But before we jump into them, I wanted to take a second to quickly introduce myself. My name's Kelly Miller. I'm the Senior Content Manager at THOR Industries on the marketing team. I do not come from an RV background. I grew up and got a journalism degree and went into PR and social media, and then found myself working at THOR Industries and getting a massive crash course into the RV industry and all of its nuance. So I've been here for about almost 6 years now. So really excited to get to chat with all of you today and learn from you, get a little bit of your insight. So then I also want to give an opportunity for our panelists to introduce themselves. Could you guys share a little bit about your background and your experience in the RV industry? Dee, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm Dee Witting. I am the Executive Director for the Carolinas Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds. So we represent the privately owned campgrounds in North Carolina and South Carolina. I started out in life as a middle school teacher. Left that after 20 years and bought a campground in Murphy, North Carolina. It was a private, independent campground at that time. And then after 5 years, I converted it over to a KOA campground, sold it, went to work with various roles with KOA, and then came back here to lead the association in 2016 as the executive director.
Amazing. Carrie, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Carrie Price, Director of Brand Marketing at Harvest Host. I actually live in North Carolina and visited many Carolina campgrounds. I have an advertising agency background, been in marketing for 20 plus years. I was working in an advertising agency in Charleston, South Carolina, and I had enough of the commute, the traffic, and just agency life in general. So I sold everything, moved into an RV. I'm sure you guys have heard this story many times, but this was back in 2017, 2018, so prior to the pandemic. I started RVing and full-time for about 2 years. I was just teaching English to Chinese children online to try to make ends meet. But then I saw a position for Boondockers Welcome, which is a place where you can stay at private property. I was at Boondockers Welcome for almost 3 years, helped grow it, and then Harvest Host purchased it almost 4 years ago. So I've been with Harvest Host ever since. I've been in the RV industry for almost 6 years.
Awesome. And last but not least, Lori.
I am Lori Severson, and I started my career many years ago in the corporate world, working at Heilemann, of probably one of the third largest manufacturers in the beer world at that time. And then I went from that to consulting and doing soft sales and marketing and basically training for small businesses, which I enjoyed much more. I am currently the executive director of Wisconsin. We have 245 members. I'm a campground owner with 380 sites. We run Severson Associates, my business, runs the KOA Owners Association. I'm a proud VIP of CAMP, the Campground Association Management Professionals Group. And I'm the owner of COE, the Campground Owners Expo in Branson, Missouri.
Well, with that being said, let's get started and we can get into some of these questions. And, whoever wants to take it and run with it can, and then we can just kind of popcorn around from there. So let's start us off. What is something that you wish others knew about your sector of the industry? And are there challenges that are uniquely impacting your sector?
I think one of the challenges that Harvest Host has specifically, and for people who don't know that what Harvest Host is, I just realized maybe some people don't. We are technically a SaaS company, so we're a tech company that connects RVers through a membership platform to local businesses where they can park overnight at breweries, wineries, farms, attractions. And when I was specifically asked to be on this panel, it was called Campgrounds, and I said, whoa, I don't feel comfortable. We are not a campground. We do not consider ourselves campgrounds. We're just a place for you to park and have an experience at a local business. We consider ourselves very friendly to campgrounds. We can actually prove that RVers are on the road more because they're able to find these these stopovers in between their travels. So I think that's one of our biggest challenges is that we're not really competing. We're trying to keep everybody on the road. I think another challenge that we have is just letting people know about us. We're kind of an interesting concept, and it's a little bit hard to explain. I always tell people it's very hard to explain in like a digital banner. I could show a pretty picture and say that you can park someplace, but to really experience it, you kind of have to stay. So that's one of our challenges. It's like showcasing the experience via marketing in a way that's compelling enough for people to join.
And Dee, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of see this in two different ways. First, challenges of our industry overall. I think it's just the changes that have come about, the constant change that is coming about, a lot of it brought about by COVID, a lot of it good, a lot of it bad. But as a campground owners, managers, you have to really keep up with everything, the flexibility, the hard work that it has taken. And it's constantly evolving. And the owners and managers have to keep up with. Now the glamping has come into it. And there's so many facets of it that that you have to deal with. And I guess I owned one for 8 years, so I realized those how hard it is, because we're an association. We've got the mega parks over in Myrtle Beach, and then we're really an association of smaller campgrounds, a lot of them stationed in the western North Carolina mountains. And as a small campground, you face the challenge of there's only 2 of you there, so you have to be all around. You're cleaning, you're doing everything that you have to do, because you can't afford that person to do, you can't pay them. You can't afford to pay them and everything. So just the hard work and the dedication. And then one of the biggest challenges we all see is the weather that has just been crazy, and how it affected the western North Carolina mountains. It's still a struggle that we're working through as an association and with our campground members, and to just hear their stories of they're sitting there and watching their entire campground just being washed down the river. Now on from an executive director as association challenges, I think the biggest one is getting members to understand the importance of belonging to an association and the benefits that it can bring. Not only a lot of them see it as marketing. So when I call them, we don't need any marketing. There's so much more to it. Our legislative piece, we're constantly monitoring that. We won a big battle last year with an electrical issue that could have literally changed, the atmosphere of the whole campground industry if it would have gotten passed, because some of the higher ups don't understand, the technology behind a pedestal and all of that. So both of them, like I said, from the campground industry and then looking from an association, both face challenges, but both are very rewarding also. So
I can talk about a little bit about challenges. Our challenges are definitely regulations that we have to abide by and work through, and definitely zoning. And that's something that we're seeing in all of those kind of areas, if you will. I think those are sort of the biggest challenges for most campground owners, not just in Wisconsin, but nationwide.
Yeah, there's, you know, with social media, AI, all these things constantly evolving and adapting. And Dee, like you were saying, now there's all these expectations with all these glamping, you know, abilities to camp. And so you're just kind of having to keep up with a lot. So how do you guys prioritize your tasks to ensure you're being productive without overextending yourself? Because I feel like there's always something more to do, always something new to tackle.
You know, we have, because we do have an awful lot of businesses that we run. We personally have 5 different businesses, and then we also have all of these other association management businesses that are under Severson and Associates. So one of the things that is super important to us is making sure that we have systems in place to be sure that we're actually working on the projects that are most important at the time. We actually do sort of track our time, much like accountants and lawyers do, to make sure that we're working on the most valued projects at a time when we should be. And then we meet at the end of the week, making sure that all of the projects actually got accomplished, and the ones that didn't get reprioritized, or we look at them and say, are they really necessary to make it work? My biggest focus on this year, which is something that I was absolutely the most horrible, terrible person at, was creating any time for a life, actually some fun and something that wasn't business related. But my associates have done a very good job in teaching me the importance of that. So that's kind of where we're focusing most on this year, is a little bit of that balance.
And what are your, just curious, what are your kind of like baby steps into that? What are the little changes that you're going to try to make to kind of bring a little bit more of that balance back?
Well, a couple of things that we do is we have actually really worked on how can we make a project extend itself, like especially the travel. Are we able to take families? Are we able to spend some additional time doing something fun before or after, sort of those kinds of things? And then really being patient with time off. So one of the things that we're working on is making sure that the things that are really important to people they can do. So for example, if it's your child's last year as a senior and you want to make every basketball game, we do everything that we can to make sure that that happens. And we do it as a team, knowing that at some point next year you're going to be in that same spot, or you know, whether it's your child or whether it's just that you really are to the point where you want to do some more traveling or less traveling or whatever, that we really make use of that.
Mhm. And Carrie, I'm curious, how do you kind of, what's your method for prioritizing all the tasks on your plate?
Yeah, I'm still working on it. We also manage 6 brands, so juggling that, and we're really focusing on Harvest Toast, which is helpful to kind of have a pinpoint. But I actually just started, because I'm in the similar space as Lori. There's not a lot of work-life balance. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's hard when you're very passionate about what you do. And, you know, I was a member of both organizations before I became an employee. So I purchased this book. It's a planner. It's called Full Focus. And this is my first attempt at doing planners, but I am a month in, and I have to say it's been very helpful. One of the things they do is like on a day you can put like your top 3 things that you want to complete. You can do this on a weekly basis and a monthly basis. And what's really helpful is like on a monthly basis, I can say, here are all my goals. Then I bring it down into week, then I bring it down into day. And one of the things I really like about this particular planner is that there's a section for self-care. And so there are 3 things that you can focus on out of the sleep, eat, move, connect, and relax category. And so I think about in the morning, you know, what's the category I feel like I need the most? And it can be as simple as going to bed early. Last week, my goal was to finish a book. And then this week is to try something new. I don't know what that new thing is yet, but it's a goal. And so I'm constantly trying to think of things to do, not only inside of work to help with my task organization, but adding things to do after that bring me joy and bring me back, because that balance is really important for everybody.
It's so wonderful that it gives you kind of those guide rails of the 5 different pillars, because otherwise I'm like, I don't know. There's too many. I want to do too many things.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and that's how I've always felt about planners. Is the first one that's ever worked for me, and I think it's because it's small sections, and creating that dedicated time to fill it out.
That's lovely. And Dee, do you have any methods for prioritizing what's on your to-do list?
List after list for sure, but I'm in a little bit different situation than Lori in that the staff, a big thing that we've challenged, our challenge is finding staff because we can't afford full-time staff and all that, but we've been very blessed in that we've brought on other associations to help with CARVC. So we've outsourced some of my responsibilities. Social media, I'm old. I'm not into technology. So I know my weaknesses. The board knows I'm the first to admit this is not my thing. So we've brought on that staff to help with those areas that I know that I need help with. And I don't have to be responsible for the 40-hour employee. I just say, hey, this needs to be done, and they get it done. And they're very knowledgeable. And that's one thing Lori was talking about. We have a group known as the Campground Association of Management Professionals, and we meet twice a year, and we support each other a lot. And it's just great because they get it. When you connect with people that they understand the challenges, and we all have boards and all of that, but do they really understand everything that goes on? No. I think I do very well. One of the beauties of this job is that as long as I get my work done, I don't have to I'm not a 9-to-5 person. That's the beauty of, I sold my campground. I don't have that. So I can go play 9 holes of golf and come home and work. I can travel. I have my laptop. I have my phone. Nobody knows where I'm operating from. So, I enjoy travel, and I get up in the morning and I exercise to try to start my day out on a positive note. So I think you've got to keep that balance. Now, there's certain times a year, Lori can relate to this, that it's very difficult to keep that balance. But you just plan something like, if I get through this, I get to go here, I get to do that. You make something that you can work for, you're working hard, but there's going to be a reward at the end of that. So that makes it work.
Yeah, that perfectly segues into my next question, which was going to be, with all these massive projects and so many different organizations you're working with, how do you recharge after a busy season or a busy project? Indeed, it sounds like you like to go ahead and plan a little treat for yourself, if you will, a little reprieve at the end of that. Lori or Carrie, do you have any other tips for once you finish up a big project, how you kind of recharge after that?
Well, I guess one of the things that I've done is I've really looked differently at the way that I do things, and I've learned this from my staff, and Dee has been an amazing mentor at this. But one of the things that I discovered is, I was flying into Florida, 6 times between January and March. So for the last 4 years, I've been just renting a home down there for that amount of time, and then having people come and visit me. And when I have company, I tell myself that I can only work so many hours each day, and that has really been helpful for me a lot, because that's something I never did. Because like one of the gals had mentioned, when you're passionate about something, it's like fun for you. So you don't actually even realize that, oh, I'm working, where other people will not look at it in the same way.
Yeah, it's true. It's even worse when you can work from home and really anywhere.
Right.
You don't have to, do that commute to get home in time when you and it's a little hard. I think I'm similar. I love to travel. I mean, I think that's why a lot of us are in this industry. I typically will take several weeks throughout the year to take vacation, and when I do, I will tell everyone I am not available. And really that disconnect is very big for me. It takes me a few days to get used to it. But then after I come back, I realize, I have a lot of ideas. I feel very excited to get back to work. Another thing that I've started to do is waking up earlier, which hasn't been so much fun since the time change. But I just set my alarm like 5 minutes early every single week. So this morning it was 6:40 as opposed to 6:45. And I actually woke up before the alarm, but giving myself that time in the morning to myself where I can work out, I can do my planning, I can read a book, I can drink my coffee in the silence. So having several hours before work even starts, because if I try to say I'm going to do it after work, it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night and I'm just getting off of, my computer and I'm tired. So I prioritize the important stuff really early in the morning.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Carrie, because I started doing the exact same goal. I would get up early and I started going on early morning walks.
Mm-hmm.
And it completely changed my productivity. Like I just felt so much more fresh and awake and ready to start the day. And then the time change hit and it's pitch black outside now. So I'm just waiting for a couple more weeks until I can get back into my morning walks. Because yeah, having that extra time in the morning, I know that, they say it all, they've been saying it for years and I finally am listening and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is where it's at. Pivoting a little bit to some skills that kind of have helped you be successful within this industry. What are some soft skills that you think can really help people be successful in not only just the RV industry, but in a wide variety of fields?
I'll start. I mean, in the RV industry, obviously, spending some time in the RV. We have a couple people at Harvest Host that don't have RVs, and that's definitely not a requirement, but they will rent one or, go with a family somewhere. And I think that that's really helpful. Like me spending a full time in an RV for several years really gave me a perspective of our consumers. And I think it just made me a better marketer in general. Soft skills in work in general, I think is communication and just learning your communication style, how to be effective at communicating in various areas, because we have to communicate in so many ways. It's not even on Zoom. So there's Zoom communication, which is a different communication than when you're in person. And then there's Slack, which is our internal messaging system. I'm sure a lot of people use just messaging systems in general, texting, email, social, like it goes on and on, all the communication that we all have to do in this digital world, and being able to clearly communicate what your needs are in those spaces is really helpful. I use ChatGPT. I'm not afraid to admit it. It's really helpful when you're struggling to think of something and you just want to put in a bunch of bullets and you're like, okay, can you organize this in a way that is easy to read for somebody that is X? So like I'm talking to a person in the product and engineering team. They speak differently than I do. So how can I communicate to them what I need? And ChatGPT has been very helpful for that. So I use it a lot.
It does feel like magic.
It does.
I can go. I think in our industry is, I think, quite different than a lot because it's all about relationships and networking and face-to-face contact and being able to get out there. One of my jobs is to go visit campgrounds, being able to get out there and talk to the owners, network with the owners, get to know the owners, because you've got all age groups that are in this industry. But here again, you're dealing with, sometimes just husband and wife team. So we, at our conference, we try to give as much time, and I tell people come because you can learn as much sitting at the bar having a drink, or we're fortunate we're at an embassy suite, so each night they offer that evening reception, welcome reception. I think flexibility is another one. Just being able to, you have to go with the flow because you never know what's good, what the day is going to bring. So those would empathy, I think, understanding, especially when it comes to what we just experienced in the Western mountains and everything. And I think very important, what Carrie hit on is that as a previous owner, I do know what they're going through. I experienced that, and I think that means a lot to them. And I'm just not out there, giving ideas and that. And I really do understand the struggles and what's going on in the industry.
And
I
Dee,
guess I can go next. I totally agree with Dee in so many things. One of the most important things I do believe is networking, and not just general networking, but really genuinely networking with the people that can and will support you and don't only talk it, they actually do it. And that kind of goes back to our camp group. Um, Dee can tell you, when we started the Campground Owners Association Expo about 4 years ago, I had so many of the execs like Dee that showed up and helped and really made things happen. And their information and communication was so important to me, because they were really in it to win it. I mean, they would tell me things that were important, changes that I needed to make and that kind of thing. And they understand the industry. And I think that's the most important part, is really truly understanding that industry, whether you're a current campground owner or you have big connections with campground owners, you understand the RV world, you understand the industry. And I think that's probably the biggest and most important thing. And then you can communicate. Then you can have all those things work with you. But you really have to understand, what's all out there, and you don't know what you don't know. So I think that is crucial to make sure that you have people that have those resources, and those people who do know the answer and have the resources.
yeah, and this industry, the RV industry in general, being so connected to one another, it is big, but it is also small. Feels like a small world a lot of the times. I'm curious how you all approach. Maybe there's some do's and don'ts of networking, especially as it is such a male-dominated field. If you have any kind of you must do this, stay away from that tips when it comes to networking.
Well, I can tell you one of the things that I think is important is that I think it's like a checkbook. That's the way I look at it. You can't make a withdrawal. You can't take money out unless you have some money in there, correct? So I always look at it and I say, what do I have to give this individual that I'm talking to? What can I help them with first? If there's anything that you can do to support them first, whether maybe they say, we're looking for some different ideas for this promotion or whatever it might be, whether you use your chat GPT and figure out a couple little different promotions that might be helpful, send them a quick email, whatever it might be, is just sort of helping, if you will, helping them first. And then I think you can begin to start that relationship. So for me, it's giving first. I like that approach.
I love that.
And I have never let it bother me whether it was a man, woman,
Mm-hmm.
anything, except for I'm not real good with animals, but almost everything else I can make work.
I mean, shameless plug for RVWA, but RVWA is a great organization to get involved, especially for women, and exactly what Lori said, giving. So being a part of the mentee program, I am on my third mentee. It's a great way to give back. It's also just a great way to connect with people in the industry, no matter what part of the industry they're in. It is a very small industry, very big, very small, but you can connect with people that do all sorts of different things in the industry, but we all have this common kind of goal, and it's really fun. Not a lot of other industries are like that, and it's something that I really enjoy about the RV industry.
I think in our association, it's very, we got, Ocean Lakes Family Campground with 3,000 sites. And then we have you know, the campgrounds, some other campgrounds with less than 50 sites. And so we've made a really good point on my board to kind of get representation from everywhere. And it's amazing whether you're from 3,000 sites or you have 5 sites, you're all facing the same challenges. And it took a while to bring those groups together, but the mega parks really stood up and supported the Western North Carolina mountains. And we have this Carolina Strong. We did an awesome video and everything. So that's very important, bringing the parties together.
Awesome. Well, we're getting some great questions from our friends in the chat. So I will kind of start peppering you guys with some of these. The first one being, do you think that the shortage of camping spaces is still as much of a concern now as it was in the COVID era?
I could address that a little bit. I think that there are plenty of spaces that are available. I think the issue is, you know, when you want to book. Obviously, if it's a 4th of July, probably not so much. But there are many campgrounds are expanding and are doing a great job making sure that we have enough spaces. And with all the sites that are available, that really is not an issue. And you know, the pandemic was definitely a boom. There's no doubt about that. It was the only option to go see your grandkids or to be able to, you know, travel or, you know, park anywhere, because that natural 10 feet away just worked. But we definitely have the spaces. Many of our owners have expanded. I personally have. We personally just finished up 24 sites for this new year, and I think all the campgrounds are doing a great job with that, and I feel confident that we do have good space.
I second that in the Carolinas, exactly what Lori is saying. And I go to the RV shows in North Carolina and I speak, and a lot of people question that. Plus, a lot of campgrounds are doing dynamic pricing. So you want to book early, because it's like the airlines, as they fill up, guess what? I tell them your price is going to go up. So, and like Lori said, you need to book ahead for those holiday weekends and everything. So it just makes more sense. And I encourage everybody, book ahead if you can, and check the cancellation policy. But if you can book ahead, go and do so, because of the dynamic pricing that a lot of the campgrounds and the software systems are actually, that our campgrounds use, are actually endorsing that and allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think there's spaces available. I think that the pandemic created a fear, and it definitely is still in the RVers' head, because we just did a travel trends survey with Progressive, and it was still one of the top concerns for RVers. And I think it's just RVers who went around during that time and noticed that shortage, or they hear about it. And so there's just, I think they've created the fear. But I also know that there's a lot of them that do like to last minute book. And it's like, well, you can't even last minute book an Airbnb or a hotel these days, or an airline ticket without paying a lot. And so I'm kind of like, okay, I realize that's part of one of the great things that people love about RVing is that last minute decision to go places. But like Dee said, like, check the cancellation policy and do what you can to plan ahead, because you're going to not only get better prices, you're going to get better location, you're going to get what you want. And that's just travel.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really amazing, I think, is that, and I'm sure Dee probably has this, and I know a lot of the other states have it. You know, we put out a lot on social media about, hey, this campground has got sites open for Memorial Day. This campground still has seasonal sites available, or whatever it might be. So I think the associations do a really good job at doing that. We just need to continue to educate the public on, where do you find this information?
Yeah. And with the national park cuts, curious how you all think that might affect RVing/camping, if at all.
I think I think it's too early to really predict something like that. You know, we don't know where the cuts, if they're going to happen, when they're going to happen. So to really tackle that, I think, in my own opinion, I feel it's too early to tackle that.
Yeah, I think so too. I hear lots of chatter about, you know, maybe not allowing camping or not allowing camping reservations, but you can show up because the reservation system takes, you know, too much manpower or whatever. So I think we'll see something, but yeah, I don't know what it is. It could have the adverse effect, and everybody's going to want to go to a national park and support them, which is kind of what I'm hoping. Again, in our travel trends report, that's one of the top places people want to visit is national parks, and you can see it in the chatter that's happening in, you know, social media about this, and people are very passionate, especially RVers, are very passionate about national parks and state parks and, you know, provincial parks and things like that. So yeah, I have no predictions for it except that I'm hopeful that more people start to go.
I kind of agree. I do think that we've got some systems that are broken when it comes to the reservation systems there, and obviously in other spots, and I think that it's a good thing to sort of challenge those and redefine what's happening out there. And then again, it's just going to be educating our public. And I think the more we do about saying what's open, what's available. I know we just recently wrote an article about private campgrounds that are next to national and state parks, so that folks that want that experience and yet still want a place where the kids can, you know, have all the fun they want to have and still, you know, kind of get both the best of both worlds are able to do that. So I think again, it's just education.
Yeah. And then our last question before we kind of wrap up, what piece of advice would you all have to offer someone who wanted to open up a campground? Or potentially host at Harvest Hosts?
I've actually worked camp at a campground. And I can tell you it's hard work.
My biggest advice is, and Lori, you'll probably second this, is just really do your homework. There are management companies out there that can help you do that. And I tell my members, you know, it's money out of your pocket, but these people know a lot about the industry and they can lead you in the right direction. I was a KOA franchise, so I was very blessed to have their support. There's the Yogi brand. So like Lori said, the zoning that, you know, people used to walk in my door. Oh, Dee, I want to open a campground someday. It looks like so much fun. Well, you need to stop, and it's fun, but there's a lot of work to it. And as far as building one, like I said, you need to make sure that you have everything, you know, right before you break ground, because you don't want to make the mistakes with what the costs are today to build and expand a campground.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%, Dee. And I think it's very difficult to build new. That's always the best, but boy, it's a lot of money. So I think it's always fun to take a look at every campground that you work with or that you're interested in, and really look through that P&L and understand where are they getting the money from to support it, and how do you really think that you can do better. I think most people say, oh, my service will be better. I never think that's a great idea, to buy a campground saying I can just make the service better and the money will roll in. It usually doesn't work that way. So I think it is important to belong to an association 100%. One that is in your state is super important because of all the reasons that Dee mentioned. The regulations and zoning, and let me tell you, they are very different in every state. You look at Texas, they don't have a campground code. Wisconsin has a campground code that would just, you can't hardly believe it. It's a Bible. So it really does matter where you're looking at, and making sure that before you do anything else, I would join an association, and I would do that before I had a site.
And attend conferences, attend networking
Absolutely.
events. Lori does an excellent job at COE. And just educate yourself before you jump into it. Get involved. go to conferences. And here again, it's money, but that is the money that you can spend, educate yourself, do all of that because it's money well spent.
Yes, I agree.
Wonderful. Well, with our last 3 minutes, I wanted to open up some space for you all to share any kind of final thoughts or words of wisdom for others in specifically the outdoor hospitality sector or just in the RV industry in general for younger women in their careers.
That's a tough one. Like wisdom.
And you got 2 minutes. Just
yeah,
kidding.
I got 2 minutes. I don't know. I'll make it really simple. Fun. Have fun. Like this is like I try to. I'm obviously speaking to the choir here, but I struggle with that too. It's nobody's. It's not brain surgery we're doing here. Nobody's dying from anything that we're doing. It's supposed to be a fun industry where we're bringing fun to other people and allowing them to see this country in such a unique way. And it's something that I forget about in those days, where it's busy and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a fun industry. I know, you always talk to other people in other industries and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound as much fun. So I think it's just a reminder of what you're doing here.
Love that.
I think it's educating yourself on all the different facets of how you can become involved in this industry. I mean, there are so many. If I had to do it over again, I wish I would have went to an outdoor hospitality college, or I know there's universities that have excellent programs now that are open for women, men, people of all ages. And so they're just, here again, educate yourself in all of the opportunities that are out there in this. It's a wonderful industry.
I think it really is. And Dee, you really hit the nail right on the head. And I think, the experience that you can learn is important too. Hook up with somebody and say, hey, can I work a season with you? Or, can I, job shadow you for a little bit? When you get to the age that Dee and I are in, we are very, very excited about leaving a legacy and helping folks that are just coming into the industry. So, look for people like that want to share that fun and excitement about the industry with others, and grab all the history and information that you can from them, because it's super important.
Agree.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for being on this panel today. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you all, get to hear a little bit about your experience, and I definitely am taking home some words of wisdom today. So thank you so much to Lori, Dee, and Carrie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate your support.
Yes, we do very much.
All right. Thank you all. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday.